Avarice hoards itself poor. Charity gives itself rich. We're all born brave, trusting, and greedy, but most of us remain greedy. There's no calamity greater than lavish desires. There's no guilt greater than discontentment, and there is no greater disaster than greed. This is America, baby. Hello, Governor. This is Rakai Steed, Newt from Neville, back at it, Doctor Who, Season 7, Episode 2. And this one is called Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. Did I say that right? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. I know. I can't believe I said that either, but it's Doctor Who, So the Doctor gets a call from the Indian Space Agency in 2367 about this gigantic spaceship that's about to crash into Earth in about 6 hours. They're going to destroy it with missiles, but they want to see if the Doctor can stop it first. For some reason, and it doesn't really say, the Doctor puts together his all-star squad, but his all-star squad is weird. He goes and actually gets Queen Nefertiti of Egypt, who is gorgeous, by the way. I'm just putting that out there. I'm just saying. He finds a game hunter named John Riddell from like the early 1900s, and then he stops to pick up Amy and Rory, but inadvertently he ends up picking up Rory's dad, Brian, too, who is played wonderfully by the same actor who played Arthur Weasley, the father, in the Harry Potter movies. Amy discovers that the ship is Silurian, and it's actually an ark, and they are saving everything, and it's designed to carry the Silurians to a new planet. So they're in like kind of the life pods that we saw in the earlier episodes that had the Silurians. They're taking all the plants and they're taking animals from their time period to this new place where they're going to be set up. However, in searching the database, there are no Silurians on board. How's this a Silurian ship, but there's no Silurians? There's also a small spaceship that has crashed into this big spaceship that's kind of throwing everything off. So the Doctor, Rory, and his father Brian go to the engine room. They're teleported to the engine room, but it looks like a giant beach on the ocean. While they're there, they end up getting chased by pterosaurs. What most of us who don't know the difference between different dinosaurs will call pterodactyls, the big flying ones. But it actually is a engine room, and the waves of the ocean are what generate the engine. So that's a new design. When they escape, the Doctor, Rory, and Brian get escorted by two very sassy robots who are in the employ of a man called Solomon, who is also played by the actor who played Walder Frey in Game of Thrones, and Mr. Filch, the kind of janitor, super snitch with the cat in the Harry Potter movies. He is I don't want to say he's like a mercenary. He's an opportunist. He's a exotic black market trader, and he's in the business of anything that has value. He's out to steal it and sell it off. And he came upon this ship, which to him was a gold mine. We later find out that all the Silurians were on board. He had his two robots jettison all of their space pods, and he basically killed every Silurian on board this ark. He committed genocide just to take control of the dinosaurs, because yes, the Silurians have not just the pterosaurs, but there are raptors, there's a triceratops we see, I'm pretty sure there's a T-Rex that we see. So yes, there are actual dinosaurs on this spaceship. So the title is not actually BS. Solomon, once he jettisoned all the Silurians, he had no way to control the ship. He didn't know how to drive their ship. So once his ship crashed into them, the ship itself reverted back to its original program, which was to go back to its original planet, which was Earth. So that's why the ship is about to crash into Earth. The Indian Space Agency is going to shoot the ship down with missiles. The doctor says that he can get control of the ship, but the Indian Space Agency doesn't really care. They're like, no, we're going to shoot it down. Solomon says that he has discovered that even though the doctor has no value to him, because the doctor's not in his database of what things are worth, because of course he's the last Gallifreyan, and he's priceless, but you can't just pull up somewhere and sell something priceless. But his traveling companion Solomon does find a price for Nefertiti. So he kidnaps her and takes her to his ship, and his ship is about to leave. The doctor refuses to let Nefertiti go, but she agrees to go with him in order to save the others. The ISA go ahead and fire their missiles, and it takes some minutes for the missiles to get there. Amy and John Riddell, they find some basically like tranquilizer guns, and they shoot the raptors that were attacking them. And they keep shooting them until they stay down. The doctor finds a way to disable Solomon's robots and rescue Nefertiti. And then what he does is take basically the little black box or the tracking box on the spaceship and move that to Solomon's spaceship. So after he takes off, the ISA missiles actually target Solomon's ship, and it's destroyed because the doctor finds a way to basically teleport the big ship away. Because the thing about the Silurian ship, it can only be piloted by two people who are in the same gene chain. So having the absolute time of his life, Rory and his father Brian pilot the Silurian ship away. The doctor takes Amy, Rory, and Brian back home, and Brian, who had an abject fear of traveling after being on this adventure with the doctor, starts traveling the world. He goes everywhere, and he sends Rory and Amy postcards of everywhere that he's gone, and he's gone everywhere. Even one of his postcards showing the dinosaurs on their new home of Siluria. Even though Nefertiti was flirting hard with the doctor, John Riddell was flirting hard with Nefertiti, and she was receiving it back. She chose to go back with him instead of going back to her own time. Fade to black. You know, I love my quotes. Earth provides enough to satisfy. Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed. That was said by Mahatma Gandhi. And another quote that I really like is by Benjamin Franklin. And it really speaks to our particular generation now. And that is, he that is of the opinion that money will do everything may well be suspected of doing everything for money. You know, there's something to be said about greed and selfishness. I had a situation in my family here recently where, and I think I've talked about this before, my grandmother got very ill in her elderly time on this planet. She passed in 2022 at the ripe old age of 102. And for the last 10 or so years, my mother pretty much gave up everything and moved in with her and has been taking care of her. My mom was uniquely positioned because her kids, me and my brother, lived away. Her grandkids, lived away with us. So she was the only one really of her siblings that was still in town that didn't have any immediate family there. My mom is, forever single. So, the divorce from my father rocked my mother. And that's a whole different subject about mental health and therapy, and that's something else. My grandmother, she was extremely elderly, and part of the onus, part of the fault of that also lays on my mother, that not make sure, if you knew my grandmother was sick, and especially the last 3-4 years of her life, it was one of those things that once she got close to 100, she'd already lived past expected life, anticipated life expectancy. So while she was still in pretty good faculties, the paperwork, the things to handle her and her estate after she passed should have been handled, and my mom should have taken care of that, and she didn't. And sometimes you need some people around you. You need a team of people to kind of counsel you, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And my mom didn't know a number of things. She didn't know the difference between a will and a trust. And my grandmother's will came up missing. She found a handwritten will that was maybe from the 80s, so 40 years or so before she passed. But the problem was, when she passed, a lot of things were up in the air just because things weren't concise. In steps greed. One of my uncles, who I'm not going to get into, he's got his own share of mental issues. He stepped in, and for whatever reasons, he felt entitled. He felt someone owed him something. And even though it was in my grandmother's will, and it's always been part of her will to never sell her house, that her house was going to be part of the legacy to this family, and it will always stay in the family, he stepped in and said that he wanted the house. He wanted it sold because he wanted money out of it. Didn't matter how much, he wanted it sold. He wanted some money. He went so far as to take the house from my mother, and he hired a lawyer, filed a suit where they had someone who became executor of her will and her estate, because there wasn't a will presented. But he did all this under the prejudice that he sent to the court that he was the only remaining survivor. My mom is the second oldest of 13. I have another uncle who lives in California, still alive, and my mom has 6 sisters. Or at the time when my grandmother died, 6 or 7 sisters still alive. My uncle went and told the court that he is the only remaining child of my grandmother, so therefore the house should be his. And it was a long uphill battle for my mom to regain the house. And it took everything in me not to step in, my brother as well. And I understand that my uncle is unwell. But greed. They say that money corrupts. And it's not actually money, it's the love of money. Money's necessary. We have to do things with money. But the love of money, that greed, that selfishness, those are hard things to deal with, especially when it's someone in your family. You know, when you're dealing with someone in your family, and usually those are people that you want to keep your distance from, you don't even want to deal with. A couple of things that you can do to deal with them is kind of try to approach all situations with empathy. And even though you feel for them, you also have to realize who you are dealing with, because that same empathy will not be coming back towards you. Your empathy will be looked at as a weakness. Don't set yourself up for failure because you were soft-hearted. Make sure that you take time apart. Stay away from that person. Put together your best plan so that you can execute your plan. You have to be able to communicate and listen. You're not going to get anywhere if you can't communicate and listen and the other person cannot. But you have to safeguard your heart. Do what you can to take care of yourself. Safeguard yourself. If you know the type of person, type of people you are dealing with, then you should take heed of that. Nothing makes me more angry when thinking about, we recently had reviewed Game of Thrones season 1. We went back and rewatched Game of Thrones. Nothing makes me angrier than Ned Stark. You knew who you were dealing with. How did you not know who you're dealing with in Cersei and the Lannister family? And you allowed not only your pride and your honesty, your integrity, to get you killed because you thought you were doing the right thing, which you were, but you did not take into account who you were dealing with, who the right thing does not matter to whatsoever. And you have to bring in an unbiased party. Get someone who's not privy to either side, and someone who will be forthright. Do what you can to protect yourself. Greedy people are not going away. And we live in America, probably one of the most greedy nations in the country. And it's only going to get worse before it gets better. This is Rakai Steed, new from the Ville. Make sure that you like, comment, and share this as much as possible. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I have some great videos that you'll see some links to at the end. Click on those videos. You might see a gem or two in there. Remember, it's always about this, but it's got to be about this.